Hey, it's Will Shannon from Pinnacle Health Clinic in Sydney, Australia. I run a couple of business clinics out here, international reach. Short video, Celtic sea salt versus Himalayan salt. This has been going viral lately. Everyone's been asking me about this. Now, I want to do a short video and then I'm going to do a longer video where we go into all the chemistry, all the chemical compounds, all the chemical constituents in these two. So I just want to give you the 50-foot overview. Now, the father of American herbalism, one point in the 80s he was voted America's most trusted herbalist. Not 1980s, a little while ago, but these were some of the founding fathers for this generation. Dr. John Crisco, herbal expert. He used to say, in herbalism, you use whatever grows in your backyard. Whatever grows in your backyard. I've got a herbal colleague in Sydney. A lot of even naturopaths and herbalists get trapped saying it's got to come from the Amazon. I've got to crawl through the jungle. I've got to go knee deep through snakes and spiders, and then the herb will be recognised. Dr. John Crisco used to say, just use what grows in your backyard. Now, with salt, it's very easy with the salt to get confused like the herbs. Now, what is the fundamental difference between Celtic sea salt and Himalayan salt? Well, where do they think the life started? The ocean? Where's the Himalayas? Do you know? Should we flash a map on the screen? Pakistan, Nepal. You've probably heard of Mount Everest. Right, so these are tall mountains. Now, they both contain a lot of minerals. Now, people argue over which mineral is better. Now, you might have done chemistry in high school, you might not have. We call this the periodic table. I won't bore you. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, we go on through oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and so forth. So, minerals are essentially what we are. You know, in the Holy Christian Bible it says, for dust you are, dust we shall return. Some people say dust to dust, ash to ash. Now, how would you classify life? What's the basic building block of life? Well, we would say the cell, and we'll explain on the video the science that discovered this, but you've got minerals. It's very simple for the layperson. We've got plants, we've got animals, and we have humans, which some scientists do say we're a type of animal, but for the sake of the egotism of being humans, we'll put it in this order. So, what's the most basic building block of life? The minerals from the periodic table. So, I was struck many years ago, most of all naturopaths in Germany, they would use minerals and plants. Plants that are used medicinally are often called herbs. Herbs or plants. So these are your two building blocks. There's a subject called ecology, break away from biology, and they talk about we need to get our nutrients from the soil. Dust to dust, ash to ash. Grasses, plants are pulling the nutrients out of the soil, and plants and everything is being built out of minerals. Minerals are the fundamental building block of life. Now, whatever your scientific beliefs are, whether it's a creationist viewpoint, an evolutionist viewpoint, an agnostic, an atheist, doesn't matter what perspective you're from, no one can define with human instruments right now how life came from minerals, what they call geophysical, locational physical, geography, to life. What animates life? That's outside the scope of this discussion. But the foundational building block is minerals. Now, in another video, we're going to go in depth into the number of minerals in this. Now, I was one of the early adapters this go around. You might have seen Joe Rogan on his podcast about floating tanks. We were one of the early ones to re-put these in when they became popular. Now, I was one of the few people in the world, humbly, that I knew of. I studied every major waterway in the world and the mineral content. I looked at the Dead Sea in the Middle East. I think we looked at 30 or 40 or more, and we analysed the mineral content of macro minerals, micro minerals, and in the float tank, we tried to recreate that. And so I've taught you that we've got macro. We'll go into specifics because we're still looking 40 feet down, micro and trace. So the argument that we'll pick up in the next video is Celtic sea salt versus Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt is a land salt. Now, for many years, I preferred land salt because many oceans are not clean anymore. So I was from the school of thought that I like the land salt. But there are certain sea salts from some parts of the world that might just be slightly more mineral rich. Most waterways have the 4 macro minerals: potassium, magnesium, sodium, Na, natrium in Latin, and potassium, magnesium, sodium, and calcium, Ca. I often say calcium hardens, magnesium and sodium softens. In the floating tank, if you put in calcium, it all binds together. It looks like human bone. And if you put in magnesium and sodium, all the minerals dissolve again. A lot of naturopaths use magnesium as a relaxant when people get cramping. I like to get circulation there. I've got a high altitude gym in one of my clinics in Sydney. And when I was younger, I got very high altitude adapters for very elite athletes that we see that flying from all around Australia. I remember putting it on too high a setting when I was testing on myself and my colleague, and we got very... So I just wanted to share with you 3 quick herbs that will have been traditionally used to increase male fertility. Now, I might share 1 or 2 bonus ones, and obviously if you click the link in the description, there'll be a longer version of the video on short form platform. Now, I'm an naturopath from Australia, run one of the busiest clinics here, university qualified, and fertility is one of the biggest challenges. In fact, I remember reading a few years ago, the World Health Organization, they call it WHO for short, how fertility, you could almost say, infertility has been the scourge of our time. So I just wanted to share with you 3 to 5, I'll say 3 initially, quick herbs that a male or a male in life can use. Now, like always, to increase fertility, this is more of an opinion than a fact, because even though I'm a university qualified professional to this, I still like you to check with your relevant doctor or healthcare professional. But I'll give you some things that you could discuss with them. You could Google in the interim. Now, this is for males specifically, so we're talking about sperm count, sperm motility, increasing the swimmers, to give the colloquialism people call for short. So, first one, I call it goatweed for short. They call it horny goatweed. The long name is epimedium. It's an Asian herb. In layperson's terms, it's used in Asia once you're over 50, and it's a circulatory herb. It's not just a herb for your drive, your intimate drive, your sex drive. It's a circulation herb. It's very good for your bones. It's high in calcium. They use it for the cardiovascular health. Now, I go through a lot of this in my clinic. Got a number of very busy clinics out here in Australia. So I am one of the few practitioners, the only one I know of. I take out anything crude. I try to be professionals. I don't call it horny goatweed. I just call it goatweed. Or the long name, epimediums. That's a circulation herb. It does increase male sex drive in my clinical experience. Talk to your healthcare professional doctor. Second one, you might have heard of this, tribulus. Tribulus is very, very common. Tribulus, we call this a genus. Genus, G-E-N-U-S, like Genesis in the Bible. This is the species. It's got another name in Ayurveda, Indian herbalism. In Indian herbalism, they use it with males and females. We use it mainly for males in Western herbalism. Some herbalists use it to increase female sex drive. I'm one of the few that don't use it that way, but I have a very number of well-respected colleagues that do, but we can discuss all this on the female section. Tribulus on some of the clinical studies, and I'm only going to tell you things that are actually clinically studied. You know, you can look at academic articles on different places on the internet, and I'll teach you how to find those on other videos, Google Scholar and so forth. But tribulus is your sort of thing that when you're lifting weights, you know, you're a first grade rugby league's very big in Australia. I see a lot of these guys, you know, they take the tribulus. So I think the tribulus is kind of strengthening the testicles, increasing testosterone. Tribulus is kind of that aggressive, throw the weights in the gym sort of herb. Third one, this is one I only discovered a few years ago, but it's been very big for a few years. Wasn't in the canon of Western herbal literature. Tongkat Ali. Tongkat Ali makes the whole reproductive area bigger in a male. It's very common in Malaysia and Indonesia. They use it a lot there. They export it a lot there. I remember I had a formula with 9 male herbs, a liquid formula I make for my clients, and it was a small bottle, and I called it Mini Male. And the first lot I sold many years ago, the male rang me, and not in any way trying to be crude, he said, "Why'd you call it Mini Male? You know, it made the area so much better." And so with female herbs, females often look at mood balancing, hormones, fertility and pregnancy. Males often want to increase their intimate drive or have children.